Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happening is Here in Mendham. Yeah, well, used to be a thing. Kind of, sort of. But anyway, just the location. Yeah. It's not my fault. Alright, it's my fault that it's called in Mendham, but whatever. No, I did try to change the name of the channel to Do Not God years ago, and YouTube banned the channel. So whatever, we'll just take what we can get and be happy that we have some way to fight. We still sort of able to make videos. I have to say that YouTube seems to be playing with my account in the sense that it's half blocked me on Firefox. I mean, I can't view the entire video page. Can't see my subscription page at all. Just very strange. I mean, this is my subscription page. Yeah, it's not. There's a search bar, but nothing else. And if I open it in a private window, it works, which is weird. So if anybody's having any trouble with Firefox, I'd be interested, just out of a curiosity. Just seems kind of strange. Thought it might go away in a couple of days, but it really hasn't, and it's just kind of inconvenient and irritating. But anyway, everything's inconvenient and irritating, frankly. So I did manage to make a couple of videos, and some awkwardness in it, and just that I don't like fighting with ethelists, but frankly, there's a point where it's necessary, in terms at least making a distinction and a separation between philosophies. And I just don't see any, it's just not, it's not logical to say something and then not believe it. And so, I mean, I almost can't believe that some ethelist would say, that if they had the power to, conveniently freeze the planet Earth, just freeze it. So yeah, everything could still be there. Everything can, be right in the middle of what they're doing, and you just freeze it forever. But you wouldn't hit the button and freeze it. It's I mean, with so much at stake, such a volume of horror. I mean, you've basically defined procreation and the perpetuation of nature's cruelty as kind of a child molestation and murder. It's just a cycle of molestation and murder, and you're going to say you're not going to stop it. Nah, it just doesn't, sorry, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, and then to qualify it as everybody has to agree with it and all that, I mean, it just gets silly. Anyway, then the second video, I just went back to my roots, sort of, and, played a couple of 12-year-old video clips by Gray Tai Cho, and, just talked about how the argument really hasn't, unfortunately, besides this kind of simpler words, I haven't really improved it. I mean, I had some great phrases in the past, precious commodities controlled by, now I'm saying it wrong, dumb forces, and it's just a simple truth of our circumstance. And if we don't do anything about it, then we're just cruel and ignorant. I guess that's part of the subject, is that I was thinking about it. People are, they learn how to be hypocrites very early, right? You're taught by your parents how to accept eating the animals. So there's animals you can pet and love and care about, and there's animals you can, stick your fork in. All these little hypocrisies. It's okay that stuff has, one leg instead of two, or a kid has one arm instead of two. It's okay if some kid dies of some disease, because that's all part of some master plan, and it's all this bullshit that they're indoctrinated into rationalizations and excuses. They're taught how to make excuses and to justify, and that's the just the tragic failure of intelligence to survive maturation, without it becoming a rationalizing machine, an excuse-making machine, rather than a truth-finding machine. And yeah, it all, that's the obstacle. Pretty much is that people are just now, they're just knee-jerk, reactionary, defend their existence, defend how they think, defend what they believe in, defend what they've done as all being some sort of glorious adventure, rather than a horrific exploitation. And you still see it, and just it's okay if if somebody else does it, if somebody else slaughters their animals for them and produces their little packaged product, then somehow it's it's not their fault. They're eating it. It's just too ridiculous. All right. Anyway, so it's just the difficulty of persuasion, and just a fact. So there was probably a pretty long preamble on this video, because it's Mati Hari, and he's an extinctionist. So it's what we call ourselves. It's just such a tricky thing, because it's hard to be pro-extinction, pro-cancel, in any other context, but recognizing that you're really pro stop molesting, stop murdering, stop killing things, So, but you can't say it that way because people get too confused. Holding up our gold medal, and being happy is just a lie, because you're just denying all the broken legs. So I've said that about, well, who cares, 200 times. I've used that analogy. But that's just part of the rationalization, the excuse making, the bullshit, okay? So we spend all this money, we spend so much money on funerals, and how much money do we spend preparing somebody to die, or having a party for them before they get too sick and too dead to enjoy it. It's just kind of all this backwards values, these values that don't make any sense. And it's just, I'm just separating myself from people who are still thinking those are rational human adventures. And that's the price being paid for anything you enjoy. Or so we're probably just saying, pointing out the biosphere is screaming. Every millisecond there's screams, and it's all, it's your fault, frankly, because now you have the ability to say no. That I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna breathe air that was created by such a horrible mechanism. And then on top of that, I'm making this argument to people who will also be victims. Yeah, so that's the part that you almost say, gee, isn't there some... I mean, I have to admit that it really didn't come home to me, all right, in some personal... I suppose I was pretty afraid when I had my stroke, because there was a whole day where you were just wondering whether it was just... It's like the earthquake yesterday. You were just wondering whether this was a pre-shock or, is it really over? And... that's, so, when I had a stroke, 20 years ago, I was left thinking, okay, I'm half wiped out. Am I going to get wiped out the rest of the way? I mean, is this the end times? And, as you get older, you just get closer to this realization that you're rolling these dice that just have doom on them. And you've had an advantage through your youth that the odds are lower. But the odds of the bad part of the dice is getting bigger and bigger, and the good parts are getting smaller and smaller, and it's just logical to contemplate. Well, I sure don't want to do that badly. I mean, this seems like kind of an important event, this transition from being alive to being dead, and I sure as fuck don't want to do that badly. You know, I mean, I want to gracefully slide out the door, you know, and you know that you're not guaranteed that. You're not. There's nothing. You know, you're you know, you don't know how it's gonna land on you, and it's a very unpleasant thought to have roaming about in your brain, and I guess for most people it just isn't real enough yet. That's, you know, just another part of what makes this job harder, is there's all these little things that are in the way. People don't have to live and die, and they don't have to see the whole story before they can vote for it. And they should eat the whole meal before they say it's edible. You know, they should wait and see. Maybe the poison is in the last bite. You know, doing it halfway won't work. Yeah, so there's no, you know, there's no solution besides either we win or we lose. Unfortunately, there's no, well, you know, good effort. You know, no, it's just, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, sorry, it's not, it doesn't change the reality. So I mean, this is the kind of problem where there's only black and white solutions. There's either pro-life or pro-mercy, and that's it. There's nothing else. All right, so okay, that's enough. Umming. Brain is in nature, and the, you know, 6 ounces is in the human condition. So I'm just pointing out the, you know, the disgusting reality that all of the stuff we can tangibly connect to as caring about and loving and worrying about is a tiny, just a minuscule, you know, just dust. You know, on the moon. You know, one grain of dust on the moon. It's you know, the volume is just insane of what has been paid in the past, and what there's every prospect that we're going to force to be paid in the future. And there's absolutely nothing. There's just no rational argument to cling to say in any way it's worth it. There's absolutely not a single ballet or a single song or a single anything that's worth it. Not even close. I mean, it's a ridiculous. This is going to the store and, you know, having a truck full of gold bars to buy a piece of bubble gum. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a tiny percentage of the collective brains being tormented, and so it's a huge. That's the difference between, you know, the anti-natalists are being, oh, I'm so sorry, misery, horror, horror, but only humans, only things that can count to 10 deserve to be considered. You know, you have to scream in English or it doesn't count. You know, it's almost ridiculous. And, you know, the mushy anti-natalist who, you know, sits there and says, well, so I didn't, it's not my problem. I can't, you know, I don't feel like raping anybody, but I don't have any opinion about stopping anybody else from raping. They can keep doing all that until they're convinced raping sucks. So until I convince them that raping sucks, I'm not going to do anything about it. I mean, it's that bad. Your view of the world is unacceptable, and I reject it in every fucking way. So I was just making the declaration that if, you know, if the world is good, then I am evil. Okay, so I was sort of talking about evilism, you know, and the sense that, you know, yeah, that's the declaration. I'm separating myself from people who, if they think there's anything good about what they're doing, then yes, call me evil, because if you're going to call yourself good, I have to be evil, because I'm not one of you. Now, obviously, I think I'm on the good side and they're the evil side, but whatever. That I'm going to stop the rapist by not passing any laws against him. Yeah, so, well, like I said, on its face, it's just a silly argument to make. Oh, well, you know, until we have a consensus, we can't do a damn thing. Can't go save the Jews in the war. Can't do this, can't do that. And, oh, if the Muslims vote against us having, you know, bombing their they're terrorists with our drones. Well, they voted against it, so I guess we can't do it. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Consensus among who? Consensus among people in the yellow bus. Come on, get rid of the little yellow bus, right? I mean, it's a nonsense argument. You either have principles and you understand and you applied your intelligence and you're just sitting there saying, I don't want to be part of this decision-making shit. It has consequences and it's war as hell. I can't do that. Well, then obviously you can't answer the question in any other way but to say, fuck the victims, because I can't be the hero. I can't do anything. Well, yeah, I mean, you're useless. Your vote doesn't even mean anything. Well, everybody else voted that way, and what do you need my vote for? That's right, you don't need it. I might as well not vote if everybody else believes in it, then you don't even need my vote. I mean, how heroic. I mean, there is no hope. There's nothing to cling to. I mean, there's just no rational... Look, we all know if you're at all intelligent on this planet, there isn't anything, okay? The fact is there's no God, there's no purpose, there's no design. It is unintelligent design. And there's just absolutely no redeeming. There's no silver lining anywhere in sight. It's not a real phenomenon. And if you're seeing one, then you're deluding. You're just perverting reality to find it. Unsustainable things we do, the whole global warming things, lots of Yeah, so we got lots to overcome before this becomes the subject of our democracy's debate. But before that, the democracy's going to have to debate an awful lot of subjects that are going to really be just as black and white about how you survive the future. Because technology and morons ain't going to mix. It ain't going to work. These weren't arguments with anything like consensus, but we had to make a decision to have a civil war for. Yeah, I mean, so Monty would say, no, I won't keep slaves, but it's okay if they do. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Consensus. It never happens in all of human history. It's not a thing. Consensus. The victims certainly aren't going to consent. I'm just going to argue that, just as it says right here in front of me, right? Okay. Not a single player game. Too expensive. Not your money. There you go, yeah. A few more phrases is all that's necessary. And like I said, some of my older videos already have them. There's already some really good lines in there that haven't worked. Then that's the sad part. Cover bad enough to stop you from reading a good book. All right, so let's start playing some video. Yeah, so it was a substantial amount of time spent on contextualizing the argument. All right, so it's basically this idea that they have two choices, that you have been provided this whatever 2-minute opportunity. The universe has slid a red button in front of you, and do you press it or not? And the two choices are, well, complete consent. Everybody already agrees that it should be pressed, or somehow you're doing some crime by pressing it. Blah blah blah. If you don't have complete consensus, these are the only two choices you have. Complete consensus, or you're going to have to violate some percentage of the human race's some sort of right they have to be child molesters. I mean, aren't they outnumbered? Didn't they lose the democracy? Yeah, so there's been lots of cases where, frankly, the majority didn't even vote for it and they're stuck doing it. Especially when you come to war and stuff like that. If people find out, well, what do you mean, you're going to draft me? Oh, yeah, I'm going to vote against it then, but see, I don't want to go. And somebody has to make a tough decision and say, well, look, fuck you people. It's either now or you're going to have to become one of them.
oh, they're not citizens. Oh, I get it. They're not believers, so they don't count. They're
So then I was even talking about, well, what do we do with this majority crap, especially in a world now, where it's a world, it's not just, it's not just the white people. It's a world full of all kinds of people and all kinds of opinions. And so what if I have a country of 100,000 people and they have a country of 10 billion people? Do they win or do I win? I mean, do we have an election? Or can I legitimately have a war against the 10 billion people if they're wrong? If I think they're wrong. So this idea of what kind of minority you have to be before you have a right to believe, to be a believer, and to invest your life in that belief, I think it's a little bit silly to argue. Now, I would argue that it'd be great to have these negotiations first. You first talk to your adversary and see. And so obviously we can go to the negotiating table and I can say the words, well, how are you not murdering child molester? So here's the picture of you. Okay, now explain to me how, when you're sticking your dick in the kid's ass, exactly how aren't you a rapist? And I'm just saying the arguments are so clear. I mean, you just show what they've done on this planet. You show the war dead, and you show all the neglect, and then you show the zillions of animals being mutilated and destroyed in horrific ways, and they're going to say what? Well, God says it's okay. Isn't that a good enough answer? God says so. I mean, they might as well just drool on the table. They're not here. How do you negotiate with something that dumb? So yeah, the negotiation probably isn't going to go very well.
As a good end. A clarification is in order here. Your motivation to press the button could, of course, be different, at least in...
Yeah, so then they makes up, invents characters who might be 1/1000% of the human, brain state. Some person who just wants to annihilate stuff for the fun of it, or likes to see fire. I don't, I mean, it gets too ridiculous. These academics just make a mess out of things. It's just it's just, it's so hard to explain. But I mean, their foundational understanding of reality is so bumpy and uneven and mushy. It's just like the surface of water. And they're building on it, and they just keep building things that just keep turning into just a flat little surface of cruddy, scummy oil. I mean, they can't really philosophically say anything because they've perverted and distorted the meaning of almost every word and vocabulary.
okay. So I think you are a monster if you don't say you're going to press the button. I think you are. Okay, because there's no way you're saying there's a possibility that the child molestation and murder has a purpose, that it's functioning somehow.
Yeah. So an endless, insane amount of torture that you can't even comprehend the magnitude of that torture, and you really think there's some possibility that there's some good purpose it's serving. And you have to stop being rational and say, well, I got to concede it might be true that, Bugs Bunny is God, or some preposterous theory that somehow there's something weird necessary enough that we can justify torturing, for every moment of human interaction. You're talking about whatever, how many sentient brains going through the choking death for every second of our interaction. There's this giant pool of choking death. Come on, it's ridiculous. And to leave all those victims to just sit there and say, "Nah, fuck you, sorry." They're all screaming, "Help me, help me, help, save me, save me, save me," and you're just Sorry, I don't have a consensus, so sorry. Can't do it. Can't help. Fuck you. I mean, I don't. That makes you almost, almost worse than the perpetrators. They're just stupid. I mean, they're not, they're not insanely or preposterously, you know better so well, right? They're just dumb. They can't make a reasonable decision. You could and you didn't. That's disgusting.
Rape and pass laws against pointless animal cruelty and pass laws against certain acts. Okay, because
so yeah, we've already done that. So I mean, there's a glimmer of hope in the fact that the human civilizations have recognized that wasting torture, just overtly right in our face, being cruel and stupid, is not something, you might go to jail for that. I mean, a guy went to jail for torturing rats. So apparently our civilization has some hope of getting a right answer. But there's no there's no hope that you can change or modify or correct for all these evils without having conflict with people and passing laws against what they do, and that's what it's going to take. I mean, do you think if the vegans were 80% of the population, do you think the vegans aren't going to say, oh, they're going to sit there and say, well, we can't tell that 20% what to do? You really think that's going to be the rational response, is to just say, oh, fuck it, let them do what they're doing? No, it's not going to be the response.
They're just overtly, clearly, it's not possible they can be justified.
And pressing with consent. These are the spaces that I personally occupy.
Which means nothing.
Yeah, it's a useless position to have. I will vote yes when everybody else does, which is useless. And if I'm really needed, to do the no vote, no, sorry, can't do it. Unless everybody else is voting no, I can't do it. Fuck that. Useless. So he calls himself a sickeningly liberal, and that's what I would call it, is sickening liberalism. Just thoughtless, stupid, superficial, simpleton. Everybody can be rich. Let's float all the boats and such, and just make more water. Too silly, too stupid, won't work, fuck you, idiot. And that's all this is just super trivially irrational, incomprehensible, pointless stupidity.
Say, fuck you, I don't want to play a retarded, stupid, kill things, eat things game.
We have a right to protest and say no. I mean, if you want to torture your brain for eternity, go ahead, but you're not going to, keep subjecting my brain to it, so to speak. Fuck that.
For the victory.
Indeed, antinatalist. If people want to stop making children, good for them, good for all. The end result, if they stay the course, will be the demise of humankind.
So again, the real demise of humankind doesn't require that draconian.
Yeah, so that's the joke of it, right? You don't have to stop procreation, you just have to reduce it. Okay, so all of the civilized nations were already heading right for extinction until the liberals showed up to say, let's be just like the conservatives and, create a bunch of, wretched refuse to, to sit there and lower wages and create huge burdens on the economy, and, they'll have lots and lots of kids, and somehow that'll help because kids are really good, at making life better. Anyway, they fix everything. They cure diseases, everything. Kids are great at fixing everything. No. So, and they'll bring their religion, that's all, we need, the civilized countries need more religious people, right? I mean, they were running out of crazy psychotic lunatics, and so it's good to import some. It's just so bad. it's just so bad. So, but anyway, you don't have to. Nothing has to be draconian in any of this, right? All the people who think their life is so special and so super and they're worth it, go ahead, live out your silly life, blah, 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 all that crap. The argument is we're just not going to let it happen once you're done being an asshole. Asshole is not going to happen anymore. And we're just going to, do what needs to be done, which is end this cycle of violence against feeling things.
In a solution. Frankly, all the civilized countries were
All right, so that's the speech I just gave.
Rubik's Cube, and they have to play tic-tac-toe, and tic-tac-toe is...
So basically a statement about just how stupid people are, and you really can't do any complex modeling, and it's just a sad, tragic fact that we're dumbing the human race as rapidly as we can. We're just making people dumber and dumber.
Sentient life dragged to a slow end by stopping reproduction is quite another, especially when the result is highly uncertain.
So I don't even know what uncertainty there is. But anyway, there's just the black and white answer. Either you're going to, there's no way to, pull consciousness out of the framework of its creation and have it, okay, and then not have all the liabilities of it. You're not going to separate consciousness from the agenda of the feeling machine, the passions, the again, you're going to have to create a thing that needs to actually have satisfaction of need, right? So you have to create the deficit before you can have the asset, before it can mean anything. There has to be the pain of deprivation, absence. So you're not going to. This is like some heroin plan or something. There's no way to escape it. So there's only the black and white answers. There's either you stop being stupid or you don't stop being stupid and cruel. And that's it.
To do is to prevent bigger harms.
Right. So the only time you can justify harming, warring, fighting, conflicting is to save a greater victim, a bigger victim. You can make a victim if you're saving a bigger victim, more victims. And that's all we have as an option in this stupid, crappy existence. And if you're giving the button that'll solve all the problems and save all the victims, and you're going to say, well, I have some sort of dissidence. I don't want to violate a social contract, and if that's the depth of your understanding, it's too shallow. Too shallow for me to call Effelism.
I'm really disappointed in Benatar, and I don't really expect other people to be much better than that, and they frankly aren't. And so that's the disappointment, that I had this connection between intelligence and reasoning, and I have to accept that you can't do it.
Yeah, that there really isn't a connection. People can have a volume of information and they can just be really bad at processing it. It's just a fact. So there can be people can know a lot of stuff, but because they haven't connected any of the foundational dots correctly, they can't process it. They can't connect facts and properly. So the logic is useless and hypocritical and duplicitous and irrational and contradictory. I mean, they're violating the rules of logic by making excuses for seeing a pig and seeing a dog and saying one thing is a stick, and the other thing is the most important thing in the world. It's just too ridiculous. So anyway, there's a lot in the video, frankly, so I don't know if I did much justice to it in this brief argument against it, and I think there's a lot of important arguments in it, but whatever. I can't force you, okay, to go to the website and watch the video, but I think it would be worth your time. frankly. So the other video is this one, where I talk a little bit about the website. So I'll just mention that there have been people in the past have contacted me about doing some work on the website and whatnot. And so I had a guy that was supposed to build a whole giant infrastructure, and it was going to be the most powerful and magnificent web thing ever constructed. And 2 years later, nothing. Anyway, so it's time to just do something with these available options. And the fact is that these are all do not God, Ephilism, Ephilist. It's all the same thing basically, but we can definitely create an image or an impression that's different. And so if somebody has some other style things and the image art and all of that crap and wants to try to incorporate that into a better presentation than the simple one I've created, I'm certainly not opposed. And we can have options where people can select the theme that suits them, so to speak. But I think I have made at least the website's function a little clearer and less noisy and whatnot. So, yeah. So that's what the website looks a lot like that. Okay, yeah. And it has a lot of gray videos on it, and I think they're just, in some respects, they are what I was looking for. They look like pretty good pieces of ammunition to throw, and the sad, tragic part is they're just not quite good enough somehow, and it's figuring out why they're not good enough, I guess, is the challenge. I mean, it just might be because the internet will not, the internet is composed now by Google to tell them what they want to hear, Annette. Shove what they like in front of them, and don't show them any other roads but the roads they've already walked. And that's part of the tragic failure of even this valuable communication resource, is that we've closed it and made it all circular and personal. I mean, you really wouldn't want to walk into a library and have them move all the books around because you walked in, and then all of a sudden all the books are going to be just about little things you've gone and looked at, all little things you are interested in, and anything you're not interested in, they're going to just hide. You'll never see it. What doesn't seem to them to be what you're interested in. So you're not even going to be exposed to another book, but the books that say, I like you, you're so special, you're just going to, it's just bullshit. Anyway, there's so many things wrong with civilization, how we've squandered valuable technology.
All right, time for another basic economic facts or rules of the road.
So I was just talking about, what was I talking? Yeah, something about the simplicity of it. And, if we could get these arguments to kids, that's really what you have to do, is get to a mind before it's become a reactionary, before it's become a rationalizer, and get it when it's still capable of hearing a counter argument without knee-jerking and hysterically running away.
The challenge remains in front of me, and I still think...
Oh, I just point out how, yes, I have failed, and it's sad and tragic, and but it doesn't change. I'm still seeking and looking and trying, and that's all I can do.
On Earth. I don't think you can be a realist on Earth without conceding to the points.
Yeah, I mean, some of this is just so basic. Evolution, the fact that it doesn't have a guiding intelligence, and that it's capable of creating monstrous, horrible, awful games to play.
Sure. And again, it's a form of something. I would argue the best part of me is what I understand. What's with my brain.
Yeah. So, yeah. The soft, the information and the collection of it and the putting it in the right order is the thing that's really valuable, and that's just too bad. I can't just genetically make eggs for that, and spread my intelligence eggs, and instead the option is this physical shit that doesn't mean anything.
Adopted a new religion. They're just redefining a new age religion. So they're replacing some moronic, dull, dogmatic God with some living force, la la la, crapola, circle of life, shitola. Some redeeming silver lining God. Some, just mush. And it's just...
Yeah, everything will be all right. I mean, it's so trivial and so disgusting that intellectuals have just squandered their intelligence attempting to rationalize horror.
Out of it, too stupid to know that they shouldn't make babies born into slavery, without any tools to escape this routine of cruel and brutal death.
Yes, it's just death over and over and over and over, and you just go, how many times a feeling creature has had to die brutally.
See, though, their passions is the same as ours. They're just striving to satisfy the need machine, to satisfy the agenda of the biological organism, and not anything higher than that. And it's sad and tragic.
We'll watch some
It's
video.
a terrible waste of beautifully built organisms to give them such a bad programming.
Tiny fraction, 1 grain of sand in a whole beach of time has been spent by human beings in the history of life.
So the history of brains.
Yeah. It's just, anyway. It's a great combination of images and music and whatnot. It really was well done video.
And the process is you're just end up saying, okay, here's the environment you have to defeat. Here's the skills we're going to give you to defeat it. And there's just this constant battle between you and what the other gladiators are obliging you to be capable of to defeat them.
No rhyme or reason.
So, yeah, and all the victims just sitting and waiting for their turn to be shoved into the grinder.
Whether they're wearing a uniform or not isn't going to matter.
So this was sort of a good image to, of drones, of the idea that, the fight and this battle is going to turn into just machines, killing civilians, and it's not going to be anything else. And so our civilization has to do an awful lot of growing up to even get to a point where it can have a conversation about a red button. And it's not even close to doing any of that preliminary work of recognizing harsh reality and that nothing's going to come to the rescue, and everything that happens is going to be because we didn't do it right. Any bad results are our fault because we have every ability to do it right.
I mean, and especially thinking about how you have obligations and how, it's kind of on you because, if we don't fix it, if the things with the bigger intelligence and brain doesn't step in and referee, they're the cause. They're just now bystanders.
Right. I mean, we have this, we have the materials, the ingredients to make the cure, and it's like you're just taking the vial and dropping it. I mean, it's your fault, okay? It's not somebody else's fault that the bad happens because we have the power to stop it, and people are doing everything they can to avoid applying that power, and it's just a fact. And they're not moving in any direction, indicating they recognize that and they want to preserve that. you know, the human race is going to fail if it glorifies ignorance and poverty. I mean, that's not going to work.
Most of them are videos probably with my voiceovers.
So just pointing out lots of videos, and I probably should play a lot more of them, and I think I will. And so you can either like or dislike that, but so what? It's nice to add more context to them because they are brief usually, and you know, some of it probably needs a context to be understood more deeply. All right, so anyway, I did a second one, which was the, you know, one little horror, and yeah, they're really just really good videos. But again, it all depends on what works for you. And there seems to be so many glib people, and so many, you see it in the comments, these people just so obnoxiously, they're just, you know, in these cheap insults to anybody who has any capacity to recognize that there's a price is too high, and they just want to mock it, make it go away, because they're just so obnoxious, so selfish, so greedy. Anyway, yeah, so there's the little mouse.
Their pain, that your life would be worth living. Yeah, come on.
So there's so many scenarios where I could just say, yeah, well, how much, okay, how much of your fun is you're willing to do this to a mouse? You're willing to throw a mouse into a glow trap and have it slowly die. All right. What do you think's worth it? Disney World? You know, some sexual conquest, you know, another 10 days of life, you know, for an extra 10 days. You know, what would you throw a mouse into that glue trap for? And you know, I'm just saying, if you'll throw the mouse in the glue trap for any of it, I'm going to call you a sicko.
Appreciate that. I could say one grain of sand on this basement floor. I could say one grain of sand, and you know, it's just, there's just no way.
Yes, that's the problem. There's no way to make you feel the biosphere's pain. Okay, you don't have a sense organ for that, so you get off for free. You don't have to deal with the reality. And but if you did, okay, if you had to feel all of the pain and all of the terror and all of the, you know, all of the depression, even, no way. It's just, there's no way you would be sitting there and saying, oh yes, I'm still voting for it. No, it wouldn't happen.
You're just going to walk by and say, yeah, it's not me, it's not my problem. This has nothing to do with what I'm doing. I'm going to go to McDonald's to have a Happy Meal. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's hard not to just get so angry, and you know, because it's just so, it's these glib, superficial humans having all of this intellectual capital, all of this capacity to understand, and they squander it on this trivial, meaningless shit.
Endured a miserable fucking life and a miserable fucking death to put that shit in their belly.
Yeah. So, but that's the only beautiful part, right?
So I was just sort of talking about the fact that, you know, it's you know, the part that tugs at me is just the fact that, yeah, there's just so many of these, and once in a while we do something like that. You know, our civilization once in a while points out something just awful, and maybe we can learn from it, and you know, enhance our appreciation for the price that has been paid. And you know, once in a while, acknowledge one of the victims and say never again, or damn, I'm going to try to prevent that. You know, they even put names on laws of, you know, little kids that have been, you know, abused, and they'll call a law after the kid's name, so at least there's some acknowledgement of one victim, you know, but it's way short.
But the fact is that it doesn't work. That's the part that I can't, I can't quite grasp.
How it doesn't work. But I think the reason why it doesn't work again is that people just aren't exposed to it. It's just the fact that the mechanism won't force this to have its fair, to be in an argument, to actually be the counter argument, and to be part of the subject and part of the discussion and part of all of that. And so the fact is, it's not losing a fair fight, it's losing an unfair fight. And again, it's just a fact that that's probably what you have to still overcome. So it doesn't matter that they're cheating. The fact is, you still have to win even if they're cheating. There's just winning and losing.
Sacrifice anything. You can live your whole long life and you can die horribly just like you want to.
There's no threat to you, having everything you want in your silly, crappy lifetime, and all people like me are asking of you is to not force, there to be another poof, another version of the bad story of winners and losers. Stop it.
Just don't keep forcing the future to keep doing it over and over again. Don't keep forcing, victims that won't be you, actually you.
Yeah, so that's the problem. They, they think they're going to be able to inherit their money in the future or something, or that somehow they're going to keep, somehow they're going to be a special little spark in the universe, and they're going to keep inheriting the good dice, the lucky dice, and it's just pretty unrealistic thinking, I think. And they ought to just recognize, they ought to be happy they got away with a life that was pleasant and fun, and they ought to be damn grateful and say, fuck, I ain't going to try again, because the odds are I'm not going to keep winning, I'm going to start losing. So they ought to have enough sensible fear to say, let's stop rolling dice. Now that I just won, I rolled good, I got all the money, let's stop gambling, because the odds are the house is against you, really against you. The amount of consciousness having fun versus the amount of consciousness being tormented is not a good equation. It's not a forky probability equation you want to be looking at. You don't want to pick up the dice again. All right, so that's probably enough, and such and so forth and whatnot. So two, I think, pretty good videos. It's just so hard to measure, how the performance values and all of that kind of stuff. And so I'd say that this video was a little too rambly, but whatever. I can't just get lost in worrying about that kind of stuff, because it is still in this conversational stage, and you don't want to be too narrow in the focus. You want to try to give it more context, but again, it is not a single player game, too expensive, not your money. It really should be something that simple, but that's people. Simple logic doesn't work in their book, because they have to, you can't do rationalizations in that small, with that narrow vocabulary. So they need to expand it so they can create their cheats and their deceptions. So they have to create lots of noise words and lots of extra crap so they can rearrange everything so this sentence isn't readable anymore. Something like that. Anyway, alright, so call it a video and say, till the next time and such, blah 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 blah. I am, I did the Bantar thing. Okay, I'll probably play the last bit of his video just for the fun of it. because I didn't finish it. So there'll be another part, whatever, 5 or 6 or whatever it will be. And 5, yeah. But I think it is important to make it. There's lots of people saying they're ethicist and saying things that I don't think are productive or useful, and so I will state that I'm not on board with their definition of either the problem or the solution and such.